Welcome everybody to this afternoon's regional roundtable. For those of you who joined us 7 months ago, we had a regional roundtable webinar, and you'll see some updates on some of the projects that presented during that webinar, and you'll also hear about some new projects today. So I think we've got a good roundup of food safety projects from across the Northeast region that will present and talk about what they're working on. So I will go ahead and jump right into our first presenter today. Litha Sivanyanda from West Virginia University is going to present on her lab to community systems approach for food safety and preservation program to offer hands-on training. So Litha, if you want to just take 3 to 5 minutes and go ahead and go through your project.
Okay. Thanks, Elizabeth, and good afternoon, everyone. This is Litha Swanandan from West Virginia University. Can you hear me now?
Yes, you sound great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And this project is funded by NECAFS through the SPGP program. Thank you for that. And the previous, it's being the echoing. Can you hear me clearly?
Yeah,
Hello?
I don't have any echo on my end. Do others have an echo?
No, I don't. It's Andy Fallon's.
No, it seems to sound good for others, Litha.
Okay, I'll continue then. So the active project is the NECAFS project right now, and some completed projects, the research we have done previously is noted there, which is WVU's public service grant and also NSF advanced grant. Thank you all for that, providing the funding. Without that, it was not possible. This program started early in 2000 to 2010, and I had earlier industry experience with fruits and vegetables drying and other kinds of processing. So when I joined the West Virginia University, I took a survey on, it's actually the extension survey on what are the training needs of the WVU extension county agents, and it came to be the food drying hands-on training was the most important one the need was. So that's where it started, and again there were other problems which came up, and the needs which the participants showed. It was not only initially it was open to our county agents, educators, and later on we opened it to all the processors, so that because those are the needy population here, they have excess fruits and vegetables, and they do not know how to process. Sometimes the market is low, so they can't sell it, or those are unharvested fruits and vegetables there in the farm. So that's why we opened it to others too. So the popularity arose, and again need for more recipes based on the research were there, and other problems where financial support needed or the childcare support needed for the participants were also expressed through the feedback or the survey. So we included a women empowerment program in this particular projects we have from the NECAFS. So our approach is through this workshop. We have an interactive learning environment and heavily discussion, and after the first hour we do the presentation in the first hour, and we get up and move around and do the real fruits and vegetables, trying different kinds of recipes which are developed in our lab. WVU lab is what we do there, and we do the food safety testing too inside the classroom. We take all the water activity meter, pH meter, moisture analyzer, again refractometer, everything to test to know. And why is it important? We explained that there is another problem we face is, even though we tell them water activity or moisture analyzing is important, farmers do not understand it very much. So this project particularly focus on developing more videos and animations on why those testing is important, the food safety is important in this food processing method. That's another step here. So far, we have developed research-based. In the lab, we have developed one extra recipe, which we will be doing it later here in the summer or later in the fall. But it has been completed already, and the results we did 2 hands-on training already based on this project, and Eastern Panhandle of West Virginia and Northern Panhandle. These are the 2 locations we did so far, and 2 regional training centers for this particular project are being focused, and we have had a conversation with 2 centers, and the county agents from all those counties are interested, and more than that, the local community, they showed their need, and we are very interested in proceeding to have this established in these 2 regions, because that way we will have sustainable results, and we have 1 center in each region to proceed this training program once we train all of them there, and we provide with them with all the equipments, food safety tools, and the training needs what they need. Okay, so far that almost we have proceeded towards the half or more than that with this project, and I will open it to question now.
Yeah, so if there are any questions thank you so much, Litha. If there are questions, I know Litha is not able to stay the whole time, so.
Hello.
Yep, can you hear me, Litha?
Hello.
I can hear both of you for what it's worth.
Yep, thanks, Chris. Are there questions for Litha at this point, since she's not able to stay for the whole presentation today?
This is Andy Fallons with Nova, New York. The workshop that you've developed, Letha, are the materials going to be shared with NECAFS and available to other projects?
Yes, of course. That's very important. Yes, we have developed the materials like PowerPoint presentations, and I'm developing the videos too. That way, you know, we even if I'm not there, you can watch the video and do it, and especially the food safety explanation, why water activity is important and all that stuff. Those are the new videos we are developing with this project. So yes, we will be sharing it with NECAFS, and it will be on the website. The recipes also, we will provide everything.
All right, and the videos are appropriate for an end user?
Yes, and it will be for like a layman style. It won't be a higher level, because that's why we wanted to develop it, because when we say it in the classroom, the participants, usually it's like tangential to their head. It does not go into their brain. We can see that. That's why it became so important for us to let them know, you know, through the animations, because when we show them the testing, we will see the numbers only and what's happening and why is it important. That we need to explain through animation videos. So we will do that, and it is on a layman level. We will do that and provide it, all the things to NECAFS. Yes. Thanks, Andy, for your interest. And you are from which university?
Not a university, Nova, New York, the Northeast Organic Farming Association of New York. And we work closely with the Small Scale Food Processing Association in New York.
Okay, great. And if, you know, I can ask Elizabeth or Chris, you know, when we have more workshops coming up, if anyone of you want to come and attend, it is a 1 full-day program. We offer it, and we need a big kitchen to offer it, and that's why it's so much bound to some of the places. You are welcome to come.
Thank you.
And
Great.
we offer packaging too. Sorry to disturb, but interrupt. We offer the packaging too. It's not only, you know, finished product. Once we finish the product, we develop the product, and then we offer the packaging, different kinds of packaging. Why is it needed? The temperature of storage and how long they can be storage if, you know, the water activity is this much and all that stuff. And then how much temperature for the storage, if this is particular temperature, how long you can store and all that stuff. And then marketing and all the business stuff is there too. From our Department of Ag, West Virginia Department of Ag sends one speaker, and Health Department sends one speaker to our workshops whenever they are available. So we are big collaboration in the state always with all the other entities here in West Virginia.
Great, thanks so much, Litha. Are there other questions before we move on to the next presenter? Okay, great. If something comes up and someone has a question that they want to ask, you can just put it into the chat box and we'll grab Litha maybe before she leaves. So thanks again, Litha.
Okay, thank you all.
So next, as Litha mentioned, her project is through the NECAFS Special Project Grant Program, and Robert Haddad will present next on his project, which is also through the NECAFS Special Project Grant Program. And I will emphasize right now at this point that for those of you who are not familiar with that, we will have an RFP coming out very shortly for the next round, for the 2017 round of funding available through the Special Projects Grant Program. And so we want to take this opportunity to highlight these programs so that you can see what was funded last year and make you think a little bit about maybe submitting something in our next round. So Robert, you can go ahead and talk about your project.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yep, you sound great.
Okay, thanks. My project, I'm working with a farmer, a vegetable farmer who also has a background in mechanical engineering. So that gives a different eye to this, but we're really looking at common types of equipment that are found on the fresh produce farm, and what's it going to take to clean these things. So I was able through the grant is to pick up some equipment, and this picture is a wash line created from two manufacturing here in near Rochester, New York, and it consists of a conveyor, a washer, and an absorber. And we also have a barrel root washer and a real clothes washer. No dryer, just the washer. And we want to check out these types of pieces of equipment and put it to the test of what it takes to clean it. What kind of a job can we do? How much time does it take? What's it going to cost for somebody to really do a good job cleaning? And then we hope to take from this what we've learned from this, and then go apply for another grant and go for the next stage where we want to survey other farms and see what practices people are doing, what condition their equipment's in, take what we've learned with SOP and create SOPs and go forward with that, and then add the next level, which is doing some microbial testing on that and to see what kind of job we've done and go into sanitizing from there. So this is ongoing. In fact, I was working on our machine this morning, and we've gone through. We've taken this wash line. We started at the beginning, that first piece there, the conveyor, and we started. We would get it messy and then see what it takes to clean it and what's the best way of doing it and how long does it take. And so we found out some interesting things. Depending upon how you start cleaning a piece of equipment can actually adversely affect where debris gets hidden from view. and so it's becoming more of a challenge. So you've got to be, so we're really looking at it very, very closely, scrutinizing it, and taking, like with the conveyor, we've actually found that we can take this apart and put it back together again in under 45 minutes and clean it very, very well. But there's no other way of doing that. You know, we can't seem to be able to clean it without having to take the conveyor belt off, just because of where we found where debris gets lodged, particularly when you do something as simple as just like rinsing it off after you know, a particularly messy bunch of vegetables get on there. And so we've worked on that on the conveyor for a couple of weeks, and now we've moved on to working on the washer itself. This is a brush washer, lots of bristles, lots of places for things to hide. And what we found there is that it takes just a little bit of debris to get on one set of brushes for it to spread really quickly right across the interior of the machine, and then get splashed when you're running the water. Is getting splashed all over the sides and underneath where that motor is sitting. So it's really challenging, and we can, you know, this is brand new pieces of equipment. So we're starting off with a clean slate, so to speak, and we're thinking back, okay, what's somebody who has this machine's been running it for 3 years and really hasn't done a great job cleaning it? What are they faced with? And so we're actually going to probably do a field trip to one of our nearby farms and actually look at a piece of equipment there and kind of gauge that question. And we've got some really interesting ideas about how to clean something that's a little bit more bad off, just learning from what we have with this new model. We're developing a couple of actual tools, brushes and scrubby sponges on long sticks to be able to reach in between rollers and brushes and then looking how that certain can you take off pieces of the siding in order to get better angles at it. And so we're kind of, that's where we were today actually, is although all the three pieces of equipment are connected, we're looking at is there an easy way of disconnecting them, pulling them apart, taking off the sides, and then then being able to reach them, and maybe like when you finish a season, do a really good scrubbing of it, and then when you start the season with a clean slate, and then do just routine maintenance cleaning with, you know, maybe that is an approach that might be necessary to keep these things clean. From here, we'll jump to the barrel root washer, which is just looking at the the pine boards and how that's put together, is also going to be another challenge of how to keep that clean and maintained. It's going to be really interesting to see when we get to that. We're also exploring the idea of using different types of wood slots on there, and maybe that might allow, you know, have a smoother finish. The pine or softwood that's on there now, I mean, we just like dropped a little bit of soapy water on there, and it's with some food coloring to see where it goes. And I mean, there's so many little crevices, nooks and crannies in there that it's going to be, if it's not kept up clean, it's going to be really hard to take something that's in tough shape and re-clean it. So that's kind of where we're at right now. The work's going ahead quite easily. We hope that we're going to put together a little bit of a video to show once we're satisfied with the way we've cleaned this wash line piece, to show how we took it apart and can put it back together again. When you put it back together again, you have to realign or readjust certain things for tension and things. So it isn't as just straightforward as like you're taking off pieces and putting them right back on. You've got to be able to adjust them properly to keep things working. So it's a little bit of a challenge, and I'm glad I have an engineer working with me on it. He picks up on those things right away. But it's a real challenge, and how farmers are going to be able to keep up with this kind of thing and be able to do it effectively and efficiently, so that it isn't going to cost them a fortune to clean this, is something we hope to have some answers for. So that's where I'm at right now.
Great, thanks, Robert. Are there questions for Robert right away while he's still thinking about this, and we can...
Quick one, Robert. This is Chris. I spent a fair bit of time on Monday climbing all over an AZS brush washer, and I've got loads of pictures that I'll send you. Just
great.
Another design. It's not stainless steel, unfortunately. I'll send those to you.
All right. Thank you.
Great. Any other questions? Robert, will you be on for the remainder of it, so if folks have questions later on, you'll be available?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thanks so much. So we'll go ahead, and looks like I'm up next. So Chris and I just wanted to take an opportunity to talk about the regional resources clearinghouse that's currently under development. This is an active project that NECAFS has undertaken, and this was something that was articulated, I guess, during the proposal development stage, but then also was very much articulated during the annual meeting in Boston this past January, that there was a need to have a central location for the housing of food safety materials and information, so that folks, when going to look for material to help guide the work that they're doing and to just to gather more information, that there wasn't a central location, and that nobody really knows where to go, or that there's a lot of different information out there, and some of it is peer reviewed and some of it isn't, and so it can be hard to place the value on the information that they're trying to gather. And so the approach is that NECAFS is going to develop a component of our website that will actually be a one-stop shop to house those resources. So once it's completed, it'll be a place where our partners from across the region can upload and put the information, these resources that they're working on, projects that are currently underway, resources that are completed. This will be a place where it can all be housed, so that people know that there's a one-stop shop to go where they can actually find this material. And so what we're looking to do is also have a peer review process that's associated with that, so that once materials are uploaded, we'll have a peer review committee that actually looks at the information before it's posted and provides a review of it, so that when you go to the website to gather information, that peer review aspect will be there. It will also be a place where people who are actively working in food safety are listed. So if someone's looking for collaborative partners, that they can go there and look and see what areas of expertise they work in, projects that they're currently working on. It's an opportunity to build collaboration across the region, so that projects are more widespread and collaborative. And this will also be a place where there's also additional resources, information where people could go to find out information about the rule. It's not just going to be a place for articles necessarily, but rather the whole suite of food safety tools and resources that could be posted there. So Chris, I don't know if you had anything you wanted to add further to that.
No, that's a great summary. Thanks.
Okay. So I'm not sure if there are any questions. This is like I said, it's in development. So right now we've got a web developer working on the back end piece of this, and hopefully we'll be able to review the process and pilot it and make sure that all the tweaks are worked out, and then I think the goal is to launch before the end of the calendar year. So this is something to keep an eye out for that will be coming shortly. So I'm not sure if there are any questions. Yeah, hi Kara.
Hi, this is Kara. I am really excited for this. This is a great solution. I wonder if there's a way to have documents uploaded or viewable, but marked as not yet peer reviewed. I just wonder, like, if the peer review process takes a very long time, if there could be a moment where we're duplicating previous research, or I just wonder if it could be, if the documents could be viewable even if they're not rubber stamped yet.
Yeah, great, thanks. So definitely we're in the process of gathering feedback, so I appreciate that. Nothing that is set in stone by any means. So this will be part of, information gathering as we go through the review process before launching it. So thank you for that suggestion.
Yeah, I'll just add, I think that was part of the thinking that, the idea with this clearinghouse is to capture the people, projects, and resources of the region. And, in the case of the projects there, we can certainly indicate the status. Is it a project that's underway? And I think we can certainly do the same thing with resources. Is it in draft, for example, or has it been submitted and under review, or has it been reviewed and sort of completed? So great idea.
Yeah, thanks Chris, and thanks Kara. Are there any other questions on the clearinghouse? Okay, great. So I'll turn it over to Chris now to talk about a proposed idea.
So, hi everybody, this is Chris Callahan, University of Vermont, and we had a phone call a couple weeks back that was a webinar actually that was focused on AFRI foundational program and AFRI Food Safety Challenge program RFP brainstorming, and one of the topics that has been in our collective buckets for a while is this idea of a risk-based decision support tool to support produce safety practices adoption. And this in fact was part of the early stages of the NECAFS proposal, and we identified it as a potential technical innovation and research topic to collaborate on regionally. The general idea, for those who haven't thought much about this, is, when you look at the produce safety rule in particular, there's a big long list of all the required practices that anybody might or might not be required to adopt. And what lacks is really farm-specific guidance, or even some guidance on prioritization, where, the reality is there may be more practices than can be supported with the capital available to a grower in a given year. And so, which practices are most important for risk reduction on that specific farm given their specific operation and their markets, et cetera, and what practices in particular should they really invest their time, attention, and capital in for the greatest return and in produce safety benefit. And so the general idea here for this project, which by the way is very early stage, is that we're putting an LOI, a letter of intent, into the AFRI Foundational Critical Agriculture Research and Extension priority area in the current AFRI RFP. And the general idea is there are some good tools that we can start with that exist, the GAPS decision tree, for example, the OFRR guidance template, for example, and those tend to be fairly qualitative in terms of their risk basis, and also we're trying to get to something that's really providing a prioritized action plan. And so the idea would be to use a dashboard type interface, web app, or even desktop, and we could probably do paper-based as well. But behind the scenes is a quantitative risk model, and that risk models would be based on past and current research, peer-reviewed literature, but also expert opinion, and importantly, producer knowledge. A big part of this project would be inclusion and engagement of growers on the team to help build that model and to help build the tool that is based on the model. And the other main part of our approach is validating the tool with end users prior to final release, and we've identified a couple of beta releases and periods for revision. You can see a very basic rough schematic of the tool ID on the right-hand side, where a producer is able to provide input into the tool via an interface. That input is run through a model or against a model that helps really identify where the significant hazards and risks are for their operation, and applies that against required practices and other mitigations that might be important to their operation that aren't specifically required, accounts for the costs of those and potential benefits, and then helps to sift through what the best prioritized action plan might look like. We're hoping this accomplishes two main outcomes: helping producers gain increased knowledge about the practices they can adopt to limit produce safety risks, and helping to improve decision-making and prioritization among farms looking to seek compliance with FSMA or other produce safety programs. And that last bit is kind of important. Certainly a focus of this is the FSMA produce safety rule, but we do see that there would be a need to accommodate other programs as well, GAPS, for example, or state level and or voluntary programs also. So early days on this, it's in the letter of intent stage. I should say that the folks who have been working on this letter of intent so far, myself, Elizabeth Newbold, Rachel Chapman, Beth Demings, Betsy Bin, and Don Schaffner. Did I miss anybody, Elizabeth?
No, that's everybody.
Great. So that's where we're at. And I think I saw that Rachel's on, and I know obviously Elizabeth is on. Would either of you like to add anything?
No, that was great. Rachel?
No, I'd agree. That was a really nice summary, Chris. Thanks.
We have a diagram now. How about that?
Yeah, it's nice. I like it. It makes me think of Robert's washing machine.
Good. A blob.
Yeah. So are there any questions for Chris on this? I'm sure that he will have more to say in future regional roundtables webinars, so thank you, Chris.
Thanks.
Okay, so now I'll turn it over to Emma Hansen from the state of Vermont, and she and Kristina Sweet will talk about the work that they're doing at the state level. So Emma?
Great, thank you. So I just came on as the new Produce Safety Outreach Coordinator in February, so not that long ago. And one of the first things that we wanted to tackle with this new capacity available to the team was just kind of getting a pulse of what farmers in Vermont are feeling about the produce safety rule and what they know about it already or what they think they know. So I've been working on a qualitative survey project, going down a list of about 10 questions with a variety of farmers across the state of different sizes and levels of coverage under the rule, just to learn a little bit more about what their comfort level is with the rule, how much they think they know, where they've currently been getting their information about it, and if that's necessarily the best way for them to be getting their information, if there's a better way that we could be communicating with them. So far, the results are pretty preliminary. So far, I've done about 9 of these, and we're hoping to do about twice that total over the next month or so. But so far, the results have been overall pretty positive. The alarm bells have been very quiet / non-existent, which is great. Generally, the people I've been talking to feel like they're pretty familiar with the rule. Most have an idea to what extent they're covered, but feel a little bit wishy-washy about that answer, like they don't want to fully commit to what they think they are in terms of their level of coverage. One of the questions I'm asking them is if they've been to a PSA grower training, and that one's interesting because lots of times they'll say yes, and then once I suss that out a little bit, it turns out that they've been to some other sort of produce safety training and don't necessarily know what a PSA grower training is. So then we have a conversation about making sure that they know what the difference is and that they know that they need to get to one and how to find one. Been talking about where they've been getting most of their information from, and a lot of that is from the Vermont VBBGA, which is the Vermont Vegetable and Berry Growers Association, which I cannot say out loud. UVM extension, and then Kristina Sweet often comes up as being their best resource. And when I ask them what the best way to reach them, most people have been saying email, with a couple that adamantly said never email me anything, but for the most part say that they would open emails from the state or from extension. The most common concerns have been about water, from a mix of a place of uncertainty and not really knowing how the water regulations are going to shake out, and also feeling like the water regulations as they're currently written are extremely onerous. I asked them about if they think that they're going to have to make any significant or insignificant investments in order to be in compliance, and that has been very minimal. Most think that they'll need to make little to no infrastructure investments on the farm in order to be in compliance. I also asked them if they anticipate any changes to their SOPs in order to be in compliance, and that also, the responses have been pretty minimal. And most people think that they are really already doing most of what the law already requires, and the biggest change is going to be in terms of their record keeping. I also asked them for the scoop on what other farmers are talking about that they talk to, so just to try to get them to share the gossip. And the response has mostly been that they aren't hearing a whole lot from other farmers that they talk to about it, and that's, you know, mostly just because farmers, they feel like other farmers know about it, but they're kind of at a level of acceptance. So there's not too much alarm, which is good. Also, the concern from my end is, are you not talking about it because you don't know about it? But from the people I'm talking to, they think people know about it, but they're in kind of this wait and see mode to see how some of this last guidance will work us out, and is kind of waiting for, you know, people like us to approach them to make sure that they are in compliance and to let them know that the time is now to be in compliance with the rule. And then I asked them what they would like to see from us as the Agency of Agriculture. And I've gotten a few different answers, but the most common one is what they really want is easily accessible info, which I think really relates back to what you were just describing as your project. And I think that's going to be a really great resource for these growers and what they're asking for. So if there are any questions about that, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, I'll pass it to Kristina.
Yeah, thanks, Emma. This is Elizabeth. I'm just wondering, what's the farm size that you have talked to and hope to talk to?
Yeah, great question. So I'm hoping to talk to a variety of sizes, because I think it's interesting to be getting this information from both the largest farms in the state that are fully covered in every regard in the rule, and also the fairly smallest, to make sure that we are communicating with them in a way that is effective as well. So far, mostly the people that I've talked to have been on the medium to large side, but I am also interested in talking to smaller growers.
Great. Thanks. Are there other questions for Emma?
Hi, this is Vern. Vern Grubin.
Hi, Vern.
Hey, Emma. Hi. Just curious, you must be documenting whether these producers have engaged in any kind of a produce safety program, whether it's GAPs or CAPS, or if they've written plans, because it would be interesting, especially when you start talking to people that have not been involved in anything, and that they may be covered in some way, what their perceptions are.
Yeah, that is a question I'm asking, and it's been a variety of. Some farms I've talked to are CAP certified, some are GAP, and I think just about everyone has been one or the other so far. I'm looking at my spreadsheet now, and I don't think anyone has been neither. I did talk to one farm yesterday that didn't know what the VBBGA or CAPS was, which was interesting. But yeah, everyone has so far been one or the other.
Great. Are there other questions for Emma? If not, we can turn it over to Kristina, who's, I think, sitting right there with you, Emma, and we can hear what she has to say.
Just across the cubicle.
Okay.
Hi. So I'm going to give a few quick updates about where we are at in the development of our produce safety program. And so this program is, at the state level going to be focused primarily on the produce safety rule, but we will be providing outreach and education to all farms that grow, harvest, pack, or hold produce in Vermont. And then an additional component of our program will be an inspectional program for those farms that are fully covered and need to meet all of the requirements under the rule. But during our last webinar in October, I did share information about the Produce Safety Infrastructure Improvement Program, kind of a capital infrastructure grant program that we are hoping to roll out this calendar year or beginning or very early 2018. And the goal of this program would be to provide cost share payments and technical assistance to produce operations who want to improve on-farm food safety capabilities. We requested funds from the Vermont State Legislature, and our original plan was to request $200,000 over 2 years. The budget that went to the legislature from the Agency of Agriculture had a little bit less in funding, so the request was for $75,000 per year for 2 years, so $150,000 total. And we unfortunately do not yet have an outcome for that funding because there has been an unexpected budget impasse between the Vermont State Legislature and the governor. So I believe that the legislature just passed the budget today. It is likely that the governor will veto that budget, and since it was only passed today, I also don't know what the details were. But we are still hoping that we will be able to get some funds for this project, and if we do, then we'll be rolling out a request for proposals probably this summer so that folks could apply and then get started on projects in the beginning of 2018 in time for the next growing season. The other areas of our program that I wanted to share a little bit about in the last couple of minutes is on-farm readiness reviews, which I know some people have heard about. There will be a voluntary and confidential on-farm visit that will allow growers to assess how ready they are to meet the requirements of the produce safety rule. Eventually there will be a national rollout of this program, and it will be available both to farms that are not covered or exempt from the produce safety rule, but the focus overall will be on farms that will need to comply, and it'll be an opportunity for them to identify areas in their farms or in their processes that might need improvements before they're able to pass an inspection, for example. Vermont has been part of the team of 6 states that some are extension programs and some are state departments of ag that have been piloting this process and kind of developing the questionnaire tool for this process. And we will pilot the process in Vermont at the end of June. We'll be visiting 2 farms with some folks from FDA, people from the states that have been developing this program, and 2 individuals from the state of Oregon, one from the Oregon Department of Ag and one from Oregon Extension, which will be the subsequent pilot after Vermont. Three of us plus one person from Extension, Hans Estrin from UVM Extension, attended the pilot in New Jersey earlier this month, which was really enlightening and really provided us a lot of information about the overall program and how to pilot the program in Vermont this month. And we're really excited to be part of that process. And what I really like, and just to kind of share my feedback on the program and why I think it'll be really great when it's rolled out at the national level, is that it's really it's not an audit and it's not a process of checking boxes, and it really is an opportunity to engage in a dialogue with the grower about what they are doing for on-farm food safety and what they are thinking about, what their specific questions are about the produce safety rule and compliance, and how it may differ from what they're already doing. But really, it provides the grower an opportunity to really look at their produce safety practices at a kind of systems level and really ask questions and be engaged rather than just answering yes or no questions in an audit format. And the last thing that I will mention is that as one of the 42 state departments of ag that have received grants from FDA to develop programs to implement the produce safety rule, one of our required deliverables is to build a farm inventory. And this has the purpose of identifying which farms will undergo inspection for FSMA, but also to be able to better provide resources and get resources around education and technical assistance to growers in our states. And so in Vermont, we have chosen to implement a voluntary farm inventory process, and that will initially at least take the place of a online produce portal. We are trying to move away from the term registration. We've been calling it a voluntary registration, but would really like to, people aren't getting anything as a result of like a license or anything like that as a result of the registration. So we want to find a better term. So if anybody has any suggestions, I'm really looking for a better way to phrase voluntary registration. But we will have a portal that farmers can go in online and basically give a little bit of information about their farm, which would include their address, their best way to contact them, the right person to contact, and a couple of questions about produce sales and whether they grow covered and non-covered crops. We have that phrased in a way that makes sense from their perspective, and won't be asking specific sales figures, but we'll asking like whether their sales are in the kind of buckets defined in the rule, so we can know whether they're a small, very small, large, or not covered farm. And so we are really excited about developing that relationship with the industry and are hopeful that it will go fairly smoothly. But I'm very interested if people have any suggestions about the best way to get that information to growers and to encourage them to participate rather than to say, well, if it's voluntary, I don't want to do it. And I think those are the major highlights for our program at this time. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Kristina. Does anybody have any questions or initial feedback for Kristina on any of the 3 things that she talked about just now?
I'm curious to learn more on the Capital Infrastructure Grant Program. Do you have anything that's available on the web that can be reviewed?
Not yet, because we don't know if we have the funding.
Okay.
Great. Any other questions or thoughts or comments?
Elizabeth, it's Chris. What are the future? Do we have an OFRR webinar planned?
Yeah, we were thinking about doing an on-farm readiness review webinar in July. So it has not been scheduled, but that's the plan. So could be more follow-up on that.
Thanks.
This is Wes Klein. Since I'm involved in the on-farm readiness review, we will, with the one in Vermont, then Oregon, probably one in Michigan, we will wrap up the whole process by September, and all the materials will be available sometime after September, October, November for the national rollout. And the plan is to do regional trainings then for the different states in early 2018.
Great, thanks, Wes. And do you know if there's going to be a place where that information is going to be housed online? Is NASDA going to put something up, or do you have a sense for that?
At this point, I don't know. We have a meeting next week, and I think that's one thing we need to discuss where the material will be. But it's a NASDA project, so it'll be something through them.
Great, thanks. Are there any other things for Kristina? Okay, thanks, Kristina. So we'll jump now to the last three presentations are going to be from three of the folks who were awarded Food Safety Outreach Program grants from the Northeast region. And so I will start with Justine Ballou from the University of Maryland, and she'll talk about the project that she and Rohan Tikekar have been working on this past winter and spring. So Justine?
Can everybody hear me okay?
Yep, you sound good.
Great, okay. Hello everyone. I went over this project in the October webinar, and I also touched on it in the annual NECAPS meeting in Boston last winter. But yeah, February and March, we went ahead and rolled out our 3 trainings. We identified a need that with more farmers markets and direct-to-consumer markets are growing in the U.S., and then mixed type facilities that are growing and also processing food, high-risk produce in particular, particularly in Maryland, is a thing. Lots of different facilities that may have been or may be covered by both the produce safety rule and the preventive controls rule. We wanted to create some sort of a hybridized or combined training for those folks who would have to attend both of those FDA-approved curricula. So we did 3 trainings throughout the state. We did one in Baltimore County at their extension office there. We did one at the Y Research and Education Center on the eastern shore of Maryland, and then we did our 3rd training at the Western Maryland Research and Education Center in Keedysville. These were 4-day trainings where the first day was the grower training for the produce safety rule. The remaining 2.5 days were spent on teaching the preventive control tool for human food. And I should mention that this wasn't just Rohan Tikekar and myself. This was also Shauna Henley and Dave Martin, who are University of Maryland Extension in Baltimore County, along with Ginger Myers, who's actually in the Keedysville office. So let's see, we tried to cover a wide geographical region because different parts of the state do have or do focus on different commodities. We also wanted to, because it was a 3.5-day training for those folks who decided to go to both, we wanted to try to make it as easy to get to as possible. We did have a lot of folks in Southern Maryland who had a hard time, and we're hoping to perhaps roll out some trainings this fall to help more folks in Southern Maryland, particularly the plain growers down there. We did have one lady who works for SMATIC in Maryland who was driving the plain folks growers daily to our training, which was really great. So for the produce safety rule, I was the lead trainer for that, and Rohan, Shauna, and Dave helped me with that training. And then for the preventive controls, it was Rohan, myself, and we brought in an expert, Dave Park. He's a private consultant that we were able to get his expertise for some of that. We did quite a bit of advertising for our training. One of the advantages that we had was time. We had several months before our trainings actually rolled out to get the word out about the trainings. And even then, I have to admit that, the week of some of these trainings, we had people scrambling to register. We only had to turn a couple people away, but some of our training sessions were almost uncomfortably full for the room. We did a lot of visiting of farmers markets in the area with like a little blurb about the training. I did find that a lot of the farmers there hadn't heard of FSMA or said that they hadn't heard of FSMA. A lot of folks that I've trained at GAP sessions and have taught FSMA at these GAP sessions claim to have never heard of FSMA, so that was interesting. We did contact extension agents in the counties. We work closely with Steve Straub at Wegmans. I know some of you know him. He did a great job of getting the word out and got a lot of growers to come to the meetings. But also the Maryland Department of Agriculture, the Maryland Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, they did a great job of getting folks in the seats, particularly the dairy folks who are making ice cream and whatnot. We have this little table here where I broke down, well, Rohan broke down the attendance, or the enrollment rather, based on the location, and then based on produce safety rule, preventive controls rule, and then those who attended both. So we had fairly good attendance for those trainings. In terms of the type of operator that attended, it's a little bit small, but you can see that a large chunk were small to medium scale food manufacturers. We also had a lot of, as I said before, the dairy operators. We had a lot of regulators there just trying to learn more about the rule. They were also great in helping us know more about the different state level regulations that were there. And a lot of the growers and processors already knew these folks, and there was a lot of really great discussion having them there. Mixed produce operators were there too. We did have some Amish. We did have some seafood folks, some larger manufacturers. Of course, we had some nonprofit and extension educator folks there, which was great to see them and know that they're trying to learn more about the rules. So that was great. In terms of evaluations, you know, just anecdotally, we did get a few of the ACO and preventive controls rule evaluations. And in general, it seems like everyone thought that the trainings were well organized, the locations were convenient and comfortable, that the instructors were familiar with the content. There were some complaints about there being too much information in the preventive controls rule training. They wanted us to rearrange the chapters. The order in which we presented the chapter, that it was too fast sometimes. They did ask for food safety plan examples specific to their particular type of facility. For the produce safety rule, we noticed that most of the people who answered the questions in the surveys that we looked at never participated in a party audit. So that was a good thing to make note of, I think. But yeah, so it was good to work with MDA and the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene. We were, because of this FSOC grant, you know, we were able to keep the cost really low. It was $20 for the produce training, and then $40 if they wanted to attend both. I'm sorry, it was 30% of controls. That was to cover the cost of food. I think
we lost Justine. Can others hear her?
I can't.
Okay.
No, I can't.
Justine, I don't know if you can hear us, but we seem to have lost you. I guess, oh, she just, yep, call dropped, she said. So I think she was nearing the end, but when she gets back on, we can pick back up if she says, sorry, everyone, I'm out in the boonies. So thanks, Justine. So we will, that was great. And I guess I'll just move ahead now, and Andy Fellins from NOFA New York can talk about his FSOP project.
All right, thanks, Elizabeth. This is an update on our project we also presented in October. The project is expanding food safety outreach and education to small and mid-sized farms in New York and Vermont. It's a multi-state, multi-year project. Our collaborators are Cornell, specifically Robert Haddad at the Cornell Vegetable Program, Craig Kalke at the Lake Ontario Fruit Program, UVM Extension, and NOFA Vermont. And the goal has been to provide primarily fresh produce farms with farm food safety training and expand educational outreach to small and mid-sized farms, and also provide outreach to fresh produce buyers and identify synergies between NOP, FSMA GAPS, and the Vermont CAPS program. And in Vermont, we're looking at training organic inspectors in the Vermont CAPS program to enable dual inspections. Where we are right now is it's taken a little bit longer, I think, than anyone of us when we wrote this project expected to ramp up and bring people on board. UVM Extension has hired the technician that's going to be working on this project, and that person will begin work June 5th and go through orientation and be fully engaged a little bit into the summer this year. He's going to be, person will be reporting to Chris Callahan. NOFA Vermont had a initial person on the project, Rachel Fassell, who went through the PSA Train the Trainer program and gained certification as a trainer. Rachel moved on to a different position in NOFA Vermont as a certification specialist, and NOFA Vermont has a new person, Kyla Bedard, who just completed the PSA Train the Trainer program that was offered in Geneva this week. She completed that on Wednesday, May 17th. And she's in the process of organizing several field days that'll in Vermont this summer that are going to be part of the food safety outreach program. Paul Loomis from NOFA New York also completed the PSA Train the Trainer training on May 17th, which is part of our objective to increase the amount of qualified trainers in the Northeast. Robert Haddad, who spoke earlier today, he's received his lead trainer certification, and two other people on the project, Craig Kalke and myself, Andy Fellens, our applications are pending for the lead trainer certification. NOFA New York is advertised for a food safety consultant contract position, and we expect to have someone on board and working in this area on September 1st. This person is going to have fairly wide-ranging responsibilities within the project, and we expect is going to be working fairly closely with the UVM extension person as well as our Cornell cooperators and the NOFA Vermont people. We've received preliminary PSA approval to deliver a modified curriculum FSMA class at the NOFA New York Winter Conference, and our team is working to put this together. The objective here is to offer both FSMA certification as well as opportunities for qualified exempt farmers to gain some focus training on some of the different modules that are included in the FSMA curriculum. And just a little bit inside baseball, we're beginning a series of regular cooperator calls now that the project is staffed, and as these calls proceed, expect that we're going to be identifying some additional collaborative and cooperative work opportunities for the project. Be happy to answer any questions on what is in the hopper or what we intend to do over the next few months.
Great, thanks, Andy. Are any of the other folks who are involved in this project want to speak to anything?
Good summary, Andy, and looking forward to our first call next week.
All right.
This is Kristina in Vermont, and I'm interested in what the process was like for you to receive approval for a modified FSMA class, and specifically what types of modifications you are making.
Okay, that would probably be best for a offline call, and I have to be clear we have a preliminary that the concept of what we're talking about is approved. We don't have a formal, everything is good to go approval on it. But
Great.
if you would,
Thank you.
if you'd like to contact me, I'd be happy to go into detail with you on it.
Awesome. Thanks, Andy.
All right, that'd be great.
Great. Are there any other questions for Andy? All right, great. Thanks so much. And the last presentation today is a final FSOP project out of Massachusetts, and John Short from the New Entry Sustainable Farming Project is on the line to talk about the work that they are doing. So I'll turn it over to you, John.
All right, thank you very much. I will say I'm new to this. I just started working last month, and everybody else ended up being out of the office. So pardon me if I don't know as much as could be desired. But so we work primarily with small farmers and beginning farmers that are just at the very start of their farming journey, to get them to a point where they're able to kind of get their business established without having to go and buy a huge amount of land or lease a huge amount of land initially. So we provide a pretty cheap way of getting some land as an incubator. But one thing that we're doing with that is training for food safety. Most of our farmers don't have, and most of the people that we're training are too small to really have to be, they're exempt under the regulations. But it's best in our mind to teach them how to implement food safety practices for their own liability, their farm sustainability, and in the hope that they will be expanding in the future and will become required to follow the new regulations. So we're working with UMass and Global Growers to develop food safety training curriculum and a plain language guide. And this is important since many of our farmers that we're working with are immigrants and don't have, English may not be the first language. And so getting paperwork and all these things are a struggle without having a pretty well laid out guide to go through that with them. Let's see. And then our partner Global Growers is helping us with graphic design and helping to implement safety signage for immigrant and refugee farmers, and basically helping them put out standard operating procedures and methods for keeping food safety at the forefront. So I work with the New Entry's Technical Assistance Program, and we're using a case management system this year to help us keep track of how we're interacting with each of our farmers that we're working with. And so we're working to include food safety into our technical assistance. We've done trainings for everybody that works with our food hub, and any incubator farmers that we have, as well as anybody that we have a standing invitation to a number of other farm organizations. So it's also getting rented into our farm business planning course that we teach twice a year in the winter and fall, and we're helping the incubator and food hub farmers to write their own food safety plans. So most of our guides and such, like plain language guide, will be distributed on our website through our newsletter and on the listservs, as well as being presented at conferences. That's that's really what we're doing. Questions?
Yeah, thanks, John. Are there questions for John?
This is Chris Callahan. Thanks, John. I'm curious what you're using for case management system.
Right now we're using Salesforce, but we're working to get a second, more effective software up and running, but it's going to be a few months.
Yeah, love to keep track of that. Thanks.
Uh-huh.
So John, this is Elizabeth. I have a quick question. I know that you guys, that the folks who grow, the beginning farmers that you guys work with can sell their product through your food hub and it sounds like incubator. And so I'm wondering if you guys, even if they're not required to, you know, if they're exempt from FSMA, are you asking them to adopt food safety practices in order to sell through your markets, or is it just highly encouraged?
No, it's a requirement to sell through the World Peas Food Hub, and part of that's because they're big enough to not necessarily be exempt, and so we're trying to. It's important to us to have that liability protection. So.
Great, thanks. Any other last-minute questions for John or any of the other presenters? That questions that may have come up over the last hour as you've been listening? Chris?
Elizabeth, this
Yep.
is Wes.
Oh, hey, Wes.
I just have a comment. If for any agents, cooperative extension agents will be going to Utah to the national NACA meeting, we will be making 2 presentations on the on-farm readiness review. We'll have a super seminar related to the PSA training and on-farm readiness review, and I'll also be making a separate presentation on the on-farm readiness review.
And when is that, Wes?
That is, I should have it because I just filled out, in July. It is July 9th to the 13th at Salt Lake.
Okay. Great. Chris, did you have anything that you wanted to follow up with on the webinar today?
No, I appreciate everybody's interest and especially the willingness of those who presented to put some time into sharing where you're at and what you've learned and where you're headed. This is great. This is one of the things that keeps me most excited about the regional center work is being able to share this sort of stuff among the collaborators. So thanks, everybody. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. And I think that doing this sort of twice a year is a good check-in and see where projects are. So I appreciate those who presented in October, giving us a follow-up today, and then maybe again next fall when we do this again, we can get a follow-up to some of these new projects, and again a follow-up to some of the ones who we heard from last time, and today. So thanks everybody for joining. And yep,
one
Chris?
more thing, Elizabeth. You may have already mentioned it, but I think we'll certainly put the recording up on the website, but also usually a list of the projects and contact information, so folks can catch up with each other afterward.
Yep, and I will put that on our website so that any questions or follow-up can be made. So thank you for reminding me of that.
Yep, great.
Okay, great. Well, thanks everybody. Appreciate your time this afternoon, and have a great rest of the afternoon and a good weekend. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Take care.